then you would expect gold to be at about 900, that kind of thing, right? And it may well be that we expect to have a huge deflationary aspect of the whole bailout bubble after the hyperinflation is through, and at that point. You get to a very strange situation. For instance, the best way to examine what's going to happen in the future relative to the linguistics is for us to go back and look at Depression-era things. And we find that in some places, some counties in the Midwest, you would have the entire county not have enough actual currency to make change for a $5 bill, and the whole county operated on a script. So we may go to that level. We have instances in the previous Depression where bellhops are given gold coins by big spenders in the 20s, and they end up using those gold coins to buy the hotel they used to work for in the Depression itself. That kind of trading certainly will go on and is going on now pretty much globally as people start dumping the dollar. We can expect that the float is what we're calling it, the relationship between the dollar, oil, and the precious metals, to undertake to reverse to historic trends right now that really started on May 14th in our estimation. And in this float, the powers that be are attempting to and have maintained a particular kind of strange trilateral coupling between the dollar, gold, and oil. And now that has broken loose, and for instance, just today we see the reports coming out about Dubai wanting their gold back, from the London banks, the Germans wanting all their gold back from the U.S., and these kind of moves are the physical manifestation of the linguistics that we saw predicting this actually about 2 years ago. Once this float starts, this is the precursor to the hyperinflation period of time. Now, hyperinflation is really weird. Having had relatives that were in Germany in the 20s and left some documentary evidence about what they experienced, it's the situation of having a lifetime's pension suddenly only be worth a cup of coffee. And I was talking to a fellow today who phoned me early this morning, and we were discussing the situation of his father, who put his lifetime's pension into GM bonds and watched them go to zero. And this was several hundred thousand of dollars. So we're in that period of time now. Now the issue is, how long will it take before it reaches down to almost everybody in an undeniable fashion? Now, there's where we get to the weird part of the linguistics, because we have to take into account that the media will not validate people's personal experience any longer, and thus everyone's living under a certain level of duality and dichotomy here as they try and recognize the horror that is their personal life with the happy-face propaganda coming out of the tubes.
So the media becomes even more whorish.
Oh, yeah. Even much more so, and the clamps become really tight. We knew that let me put it this way, our data suggested that the powers that be were going to lose one of their primary control mechanisms over the course of the rest of this year, 2009, as part of what we called the year of transformation. We had assumed that they would still somehow hang on to the ability to control currency and instead would lose their ability to control press, simply because of a spate of linguistics that seemed to suggest attacks on the press and so on. It now really appears that what they're going to lose, and may have already lost, and it's just going to take a while to manifest to all of us, is the ability to control things globally at the economic level. And I think that's much more severe than losing the propaganda arm.
Agreed, 100%. Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we have some more questions. We'll do that, and we'll continue with Clif High of halfpasthuman.com. Don't forget, we're going to make these amazing reports available to you at an extraordinary new price. So stay tuned for that and much more just ahead. Okay, back. Let's get right to business with Clif High, halfpasthuman.com. Clif has mentioned I'm reading questions here. Clif has mentioned the mid-July to mid-August intensification of the economic crisis. I think we should obviously revisit the October thing briefly, but does this mean mortgage companies and loan agencies will precipitously fail? Will the financial system as a whole just suddenly go down like a house of cards? Will creditors stop sending out bills because they have failed and there is no one to send the bills, answer the phones, or man the databanks? Is this what he sees for this coming fall? What do you think?
People that are not yet awake to what's going on, the vast majority, the great unwashed, or whatever you want to call them, suddenly start having to realize what's going on at an individual level as things get appreciably worse. Not knowing, of course, in the background that the derivatives are starting to go. When that bubble goes, we'll get to the point where the level of failure of businesses and so forth will escalate to mortgage companies and these kind of people not being able to mail out bills anymore because their employees will have been laid off and they will have suffered the meltdown in the hyperinflation. At some point in hyperinflation, it becomes meaningless to accept, to deal with fixed debt levels. So, for instance, if we suddenly had hyperinflation and an ounce of gold shot up to 4,000 or 5,000, but your mortgage level stayed the same, then you could take the gold, buy the cheap money, and pay off the mortgage with basically cheap money, and it defeats the bankster's purpose. They need to keep you in debt and escalate the whole thing up. So they start failing at that level. The information coming out of Europe and Russia is very specific as to what the Bilderbergers are planning. They think there's two different approaches there, the quick and deep depression or the long and protracted agony. But underneath that is a level of anxiety that they've totally lost control. This is so prevalent through Europe and Russia that I was contacted by a Dutch newspaper that wants to do an article because they just did a series of articles about how 1/6 of the Dutch, or 1 out of every 6 of the Dutch population is now in some form of rapid preparation, either for 2012 problems and or for the intervening years. And of course, we all know that Russians, by their very nature, if they're not in government, are survivalists. And they are rapidly preparing and dumping everything dollar-denominated into some kind of hard, livable asset. So they're sort of, at this point, bypassing the gold and silver. But let me point out that in discussing things with European contacts, there's much trading going on now being done with Dubai gold bars. So that level, at some high level, that's already occurring. It will take some time before you get to the point where you'll start trading for food with silver, but it's coming, and it's going to be horrific. Your earlier guests were talking about basically the theft of your life's work through manipulation of money, and this is a most horrific time that leads to suffering at an unrealized level. I think it may be akin to what the Soviets had to endure after the Bolsheviks took over and the agriculture system that supported the Soviet population was destroyed. And they went through starvation that was just unreal.
The great Zionist genocide.
Correct. 147 million people killed by Lenin through Stalin. Both of whom are Jewish, but that's an aside. The Zionist conspiracy, I think, is just yet another face of something that's even larger.
And
it's really, if you think about it, without getting too diversionary here, elegant in the computer sense of that word, how everything flows back. Once you start investigating one little bit that doesn't make sense, you start uncovering this whole huge conspiracy world. You're instantly labeled a nut job because they've already got that prepared for you. So as to
You're too far ahead of 99% of the people. They can't follow it.
Yeah. And they don't want to. They refuse to alter their paradigms to accept this. So I can't blame them. Every person's destiny is their own. But universe has a tendency to come along and kick all of our collective butts, and we're in one of those times.
Well, we're due.
That's true.
Overdue.
Yeah. Well, this summer will be quite extraordinary. The global coastal event stuff is already occurring. The linguistics are popping up about how there's going to be an 11-foot level of water rise on the North American coast due to Greenland alone. We're seeing the dancing mountains in the Caribbean and in Indonesia as undersea volcanoes start popping off and near Tonga, creating new land and causing other mischief. So it's just the beginning of things. We're going to probably end up seeing days in some places where it goes well over 120 degrees, and we start seeing breakdown of the nitrogen cycle in the soil. Some parts of the bread baskets of the world are going to be destroyed this summer.
What's going to cause that?
The nitrogen cycle is dependent on temperature. If you get it over 121 degrees, plants can't take up nitrogen and they start to die, regardless of all other conditions. You can have all kinds of water, but if the temperature is too hot, they can't deal with nitrogen. It varies with species, but almost all food crops will break the nitrogen cycle at by 140 degrees, but it's kind of moot because somewhere around 127 degrees the mycelia layer dies in the soil and can't participate, and then everything goes. So we expect, as part of our forecast, we're saying that there will be recognizable, visible crop anxiety through the summer and into fall, which will also pressure the whole derivatives problem and create the tumbling mess that will be the dollar death from November on. Bear in mind, when the dollar dies will be the point of highest risk for seemingly irrational acts that will lead to war.
We're getting close now.
No, this is the prep. I'm not particularly worried at the moment.
But it's coming.
Yeah. And it's, that's it. I don't know. This is why it gets back to our basic, as you say, reduction in price and all of that. The reason we're doing this is because we don't know if these kind of events are mutable. Can they be changed if a large enough body in the populace of the planet decided, okay, that's it. We're all going to identify the barcode of the Zionist empire, and nobody's going to buy anything manufactured by any Zionist anywhere on the planet, nor cooperate with them, sort of put them all into Coventry and shun them. Would that work? Mm-hmm. They're really, when you think about it, the evildoers, so to speak, here under Bush speak, are finite in number. And we've done an analysis, and if you really looked at it, there's probably only 10,000 individuals that fall within their category of the center collective of the powers that be. Maybe another couple of million in minions, and there's 6.5 billion of us. Would only take 2 or 3% of those billions to all of us turn and point our fingers at these guys and say, we're watching you, and you can't get away with this, for it to kind of cease. But it's going to take courage on the part of those people, that 2 to 3%, to do it, because a lot of us will die in the process. But, it's like, okay, what else? I haven't got anything better to do, so we might as well.
Yeah, I agreed. All right, a couple more questions here. Let's see if we can get through these. I'm going to talk about Half-Fast Human and the new price structure, which is really amazing. Let's see here. All right, the daily machinery of government come this summer, fall. Will government agencies just start to close down, some of them? Will the federal system simply spin apart like the former USSR did 30 years ago when the Soviet Union basically became unhinged and collapsed within a matter of days? Are we going to see this impact the bureaucracy known as Washington, D.C. and the federal government?
It's happening now. It'll start small. We'll see agencies deflate rather than totally collapse. They'll keep deflating by shedding personnel until they get to just this core administrative level, and then they'll collapse because none of those people know how to do any actual work, and everybody will be super